In August of this year, World of Warcraft will enter into its 7th expansion, the Battle for Azeroth. With the release of BFA comes some rather large changes to the game's PvP system, and one very notable change is going to be the removal of the Strand of the Ancients, a Wrath of the Lich King era vehicle-based battleground. The news of its removal has people torn. Some are happy that the battleground is getting removed, and others, who enjoy it, are unhappy to see it go. Others question why the battleground is being removed and are left wondering why Blizzard just doesn't fix it up some and make it to a more modern standard. Today I wanted to talk about this and explain some of the logic behind Blizzard's choice to remove it and why I think they don't feel like revamping it is really worth it. So, let's begin. Why the hell are they removing Strand of the Ancients? The answer to this is quite simple. Strand of the Ancients is a bad battleground. You may like it and enjoy it, and if you do, then more power to you. But from some objective standpoints, it's not well designed, and it lacks any clear method of play. First of all, to understand why Strand of the Ancients sucks so much, you have to look at when it came out. It was released with Wrath of the Lich King, and during Wrath of the Lich King, siege combat was a big selling point Blizzard was pushing for that expansion. I mean, hell, it even made it onto the sizzle blurbs on the game's box. So, naturally, all three of the PvP battlegrounds for the expansion, that is, Strand of the Ancients, Isle of Conquest, and Wintergrasp, all featured PvPing in siege vehicles like the catapults and the demolishers. This was a cool concept on paper, but what ended up happening in practice was that siege combat was kind of shallow and ultimately considered a failed experiment. Wintergrasp and Isle of Conquest are these huge, big PvP areas where two raid groups slam up against each other, but Strand of the Ancients is a smaller scale 15 versus 15 battleground, so the shallow nature of siege combat really sticks out. But Strand of the Ancients is bad not just because of siege combat. The layout of the map and its main objective is also bad. One team defends the map and its 4 tiers of gates from an attacking team who has to destroy the defending team's gates and violate the Titan Relic. The first 2 tiers of gates are 2 gates each, which means that each tier has 2 points of entry for the attacking team and 2 points of defense for the defending team. This is okay, but after the second tier of gates, the next 2 tiers are only 1 gate each. This means defending and attacking these gates turns into a meaningless blob versus blob death grind with almost no strategy involved on either side. The attacking team tries to zerg the gate with bombs, while the defending team mindlessly AoEs all over, while the attacking team slowly drives demolishers up the last 2 gates, while being quickly dotted down by the defenders. It's a goddamn mess and very biased to the defending team. If dot classes simply keep dot pressure up on the demolishers while a few people guard the gates for ninja bombers, it gets very, very hard for attackers to win. And no, I'm not saying that it's impossible to win while attacking in the battleground or anything like that. I just mean that the map is biased towards defenders to the point that it gives attackers a harder time usually. Another problem with the battleground is that siege vehicles all suck. Demolishers do really bad DPS to gates and are absolutely pointless for attacking the relic chamber door almost, unless you're lucky and the defending team is outright ignoring your demolishers. Zerging the gates with bombs and trying to kill the defenders who are guarding the gates is actually a much better tactic and budgets way better than shooting a door with a demolisher. A single player's DPS against another player is much higher than a demolisher's DPS to a gate, if that makes any sense. It's better to just not get in demolishers a lot of the time and instead focus on just killing the enemy team and then bombing their gates. But you also have the turret guns on the walls that the defending team is able to use to shoot at the attackers. They're terrible. Demolishers might budget poorly, but at least they can win games if the defending team ignores them too much. But the wall turrets are fucking useless. They do such poor amounts of damage that you are a straight up detriment to your whole team if you use one. You would literally be more helpful if you applied some buffs to your team on the boat at the start of the match and then accidentally fell off of the boat and wasted the rest of the match swimming back to shore than if you were to actually sit in one of these pieces of shit. The whole graveyard situation is also really stupid, as your team can actually be severely punished by capping a graveyard too soon, and that's just bad game design 101. You never ever want an objective to be bad to take if it isn't taken at some certain time or something. That's adding a really dumb level of micromanagement to the battleground that simply should not be there. But there's the main problems of Strand of the Ancients. With all that said, now it brings up the question of why the hell doesn't Blizzard just fix the battleground instead of removing it? Well, the answer to this question is pretty much because if you were to actually fix Strand of the Ancients, you'd essentially end up turning it into an entirely new battleground. Every core aspect of it is irrevocably not good. The very layout of the map is bad, and the siege combat is bad at a fundamental level that would be impossible to squarely balance. For what it's worth, Strand of the Ancients has historically been by far the most blacklisted battleground in the game, significantly higher than even Alterac Valley or Isle of Conquest. It's so highly blacklisted that there are thousands of people who blacklist only it and not even a second battleground, skyrocketing its blacklist percentage far above any other battleground. So, for what it's worth, Strand of the Ancients simply isn't worth saving, at least in Blizzard's eyes. I agree with their choice, and I consider the battleground to be a failed experiment and a product of the past. Blizzard's game design philosophy has matured quite a bit since Wrath of the Lich King, and it's obvious they want to quietly sweep their little siege PvP idea under the rug. If you like the battleground and you think the siege warfare is fun, then that sucks for you and I'm sorry. I know that while Strand of the Ancients may objectively be badly designed and objectively the least popular battleground in the game, that this doesn't mean that there aren't people out there who actually enjoy it and have fun with it. Unfortunately for these people, however, Blizzard has decided that it's time to take Strand of the Ancients out behind the old shed and put it out of its misery. Anyways, I guess the point of this video was just to quickly go over what made the battleground no good and why Blizzard has resorted to removing it rather than change it or fix it. I hope you liked this stupid little video, and goodbye.